Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. Today we're going to talk about the Porsche Panamera. It's one of these cars that I've been requesting a lot to do one of these retro designs on, so I thought that would be fun to take a 1963 Porsche 901 and turn it into a 1963 Porsche Panamera. That's what we're gonna do in this crazy video today. But before we do that, I have some really exciting news, and that is that the Doodle collection is now live on TheSketchMonkey.store, and in that Doodle collection you find this t-shirts among others, where you can kind of figure out what the theme is all about. It's about quick lines, quick doodles that I put on my Instagram, and then I got some requests from you guys to put those onto t-shirts, and I can say that these are very high quality. They are not the cheap kind of t-shirts, and they fit very well and are super soft and comfy. So if you're interested, go and check them out at sketchmonkey.store. I'm gonna link it down in the description below as well if you're interested in that. Now let's have a look at the first Porsche Panamera here. It came out in 2010, as I'm sure you know. I was in Italy back then studying car design, and I remember seeing these first on the streets in the streets of Milan there the first time I saw this car, and I can't say that I'm a fan of it. It has a lot of people who don't like it, and I'm not sure there are people who actually really think this is a beautiful car. But looking at the current Panameras, we have some good news. I'm going to talk about those in just a minute here. First, I want to talk about this 2010 Porsche Panamera to really just show you what the problem is, because to me the problem is pretty obvious and they've since fixed this problem. But if you think about this, if you're Porsche, what have you done up until mid-2000s? All you did was the Porsche 911 and a couple of other models, 944, 928, and all of these cars, but you were focused on the 911. That was the essential shape of what everybody thought of when they thought about Porsches. So now the market has changed in the 2000s. You need an SUV to be competitive if you want to stay alive. That's why Aston Martin, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, everybody's pushing out SUVs since a couple of years back, because that's what people want to buy. But you also, in the beginning of the 2000s here, the 2010s, sedans were a big deal. They're not so much anymore, but Porsche felt that this is a segment that they wanted to get into, as well as the SUVs with the Cayenne and the Macan. So they created this. And the problem here when they designed this car is very simple. They didn't understand what they wanted to create. It feels like it is a Porsche 911, but it's struggling to it has some disease here in the back that makes it look very awkward, and the proportions are so off on the first generation Panamera here. And the reason I'm saying that is because you have this roofline here, so it's almost straight up here, and then it starts to dip right here. It's not a continuous 911 slope that we get from doing like this that we have on the newer models, which I'm gonna go into in just a bit here. This is as if they didn't know if they wanted to create some sort of wagon shape here, which this is almost a wagon shape, the way this part bulges out from the rest of this line here, or if they wanted to create a sedan. So they got stuck with something that's completely in between, and this is the result, and it's just not a good looking car. It looks like it really wants to be a 911, but there's just something off in this area right here, and that is this, that there is almost a corner in this space right here, in this traditional beautiful 911 curvature, and we can't have that. We have to decide, do we want to make it into a sedan? That means that we need to lower this even more and not even think about the 911 lines. We need to create a brand new Panamera, a brand new Porsche with a completely different roofline than the 911. Or do we want to make it into a wagon, which means that we can confidently and comfortably extend this line without feeling bad at all for it, because we have now defined that we want to create a station wagon, but having this design right here, which is almost 33% wagon, 33% sedan, 33% hatchback. It doesn't know what it wants to be, and at the same time it's trying too hard to be a Porsche 911. With this line here being all messed up, it needs to dip more like this if we want to have it be close to a 911, or just make it into a wagon. So now let's talk about the current generation Panameras and just look at how beautifully they've changed this design and turn it into what looks like almost the exact same roofline as the Aston Martin Rapide, which to me is the sedan that Aston Martin nailed the first time they tried it. They didn't have this awkward first generation Rapide that looks like a sick Vantage. They nailed the proportions the first time, and this is what the Panamera should have been from the get-go. And what's the difference here? Well, you can see that the roofline is completely different on this car than it is right here. I don't know about the interior space for the rear passengers, but the way they hide it graphically here is that they have the same kind of roofline as the first generation right here, but this line right here, the window goes way lower here. It doesn't go all the way up here and then down here in a weird curvature like you have right here, which doesn't work on a Porsche. It works a lot better to keep the original 911 window line like they have here, and then work and mold this piece of the metal to kind of hide the rest of the height of the car, and that's exactly what they did here with this version. So they also, of course, made the Sport Turismo. So they decided that they were gonna keep this with a sloping roofline, more like a 911, and then on top of that, we're gonna create a wagon version of the Porsche Panamera, which is this one right here, which is unapologetically a wagon. It doesn't have to be resembled, it doesn't have to have some connection to the 911 because we don't have a 911 wagon. So designers could go a little bit more crazy with this design and not be constrained so much by the history of the 911 like we have on the regular Panamera right here. So what does this mean if we want to turn the first Porsche 911 called the 901 when it was introduced in 63. Then when the 901 went into production in 64, they changed the name to the 911, and of course the legend was born. So let's have a look at the 1963 901 here. So here's my plan how we turn this into a Porsche Panamera from 1963. It's gonna be nuts, but here's the plan. We're going to, of course, extend the wheelbase. That needs to be done. Maybe have the wheel all the way back here, something like that. And on top of that, we're gonna have to obviously extend this roofline. But here's the thing, I don't want the roofline to extend a lot this way. Instead, I want to keep it, I want to have it be a continuous curvature and not have it go stagnant for a bit and then continue the curvature, because that's what messed up first Panamera right here. It went flat here before it started to dip down again here. That's not gonna work. So what I want to do is have a continuous curvature from this, only extend the existing curve that we have on the Porsche 901 here that's already in the car, and then have the wheelbase back here. So what we're going to do is extend the whole body of the car, still have the feeling of a 911. We're not gonna make it into a hatchback or a wagon or anything like that. And of course, we need to extend this part right here too, because we're gonna have to add a second pair of doors right here somewhere. So it's going to be an interesting experience and experiment to see how this redesign is going to turn out. It's a bit of a challenge, but I think we can make it because the Porsche 911 is already such a beautiful design. All we got to do is be careful, really careful with this specific typical 911 curvature right here. We can't have it go stagnant and then dip. That's gonna mess up the entire car as it did on the first generation Panamera. So with that said, let's continue here and let's go nuts on the 901 Porsche from 1963. Extend it, add a couple of doors, turn it into a classic vintage Porsche Panamera. Oh boy, here it is. This is my vintage Porsche Panamera 1963 model. Yes, I decided to change the wheels in the last second, like I do in maybe 50% of the videos, because the wheels are so important to a car. I've said it before. It's kind of the jewelry you put on the car. It's the only connection point to the ground, so it's a very important feature on any car to have the correct wheels on the car. And these are a little bit more modern than the 63. These are the Fuchs wheels from 70 something, 73. But I decided to put them on this 63 model anyway, because they make more sense now that the body of the car has been extended, as you can see right here. It's way longer than the original 63. That means that we can have a little bigger dimension wheel as well. But the most important thing here that I want to talk about is the roofline that we were talking about in the beginning. And that I wanted to keep that curvature all the way from the end of the A-pillar right here, have a continuous curvature going down like this, and having it be the typical, the recognizable Porsche 911 line, although here the shoulder line as well has been way extended, and on top of that you have of course the roof line being extended the same amount as well. And when we do that, when we extend these two lines together back, it doesn't look too bad. And that's the problem that Porsche had with the first Panamera, as I talked about before, and that's also the solution that they figured out with the newer Panameras right here. I think this is, I would say this is a beautiful car, and it's a car that I now look forward to seeing instead of hiding and running away from as soon as I saw it in 2010. 2021 is a lot different. The design has kind of matured over the years, and they've kind of figured out what they want the Panamera to be, and it's separated itself more from the 911 now and become its own model. But anyway, let's go back to the redesign that we talked about right here. It's a quick redesign. It's not a lot to do, but this is one of these redesigns that everything is in the details. You have to figure out all the chrome, all these trim pieces for where the doors go, how long this door is going to be in comparison to this. I wanted to keep the rear door a little bit shorter than the front door because it makes sense. This would be the 60s. Nobody really cares about the rear doors, so keep the focus on the front doors, front passengers, but still we want to make it a Panamera, so we need to add a couple of rear doors to this car anyway, although a bit shorter than the front doors. All I gotta do now is show you the before and after, and that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'm the TheSketchMonkey. Take care, and I hope to see you in the next video.